Hi, Dr. Henley. Our presentation is about how a better application of the 2018 ASX Corporate Governance Principle have prevented corporate collapse and other business scandals. And we will use the Anglo-Irish Bank as an example to analyze this problem. And here are the structure of our presentation. We have 5 parts of it. First, let me introduce what's the definition of the key term, the corporate governance. So corporate governance is the framework of rules, relationship, system, and process within and by which authority is exercised and controlled within corporations. It encompasses the mechanism by which companies and those in control are held to account. So that means in most situations, corporate governance principle will have positive effort and good outcomes for corporates. That is to say, a reasonable application of the principle could prevent business failure. And here are the 8 central principles of the corporate governance. And later we will use 3 of them to analyze how to prevent corporate failure more specifically. And then because we use the Anglo-Irish Bank as an example to analyze, so we need to figure out what happened at this company and what was the outcome. Anglo-Irish Bank was the 3rd largest bank in Ireland, which mainly focused on business and commercial banking, but it began to wind down after being nationalized in 2008. So we consider about what were the reasons due to the collapse and the business scandals of Anglo-Irish Bank, because we can only analyze how to prevent it by understanding what caused it. One of the reasons was that it is affected badly by the recession in the Irish proprietary market in 2008. That makes the assets of the Anglo-Irish Bank were relatively lower than their liability, which means the solvency to be threatened. And also, the Anglo-Irish Bank had a series of scandals which called the Anglo-Irish Headed Loans controversy. The Fitzpatrick, who is the chairman of this company, he transformed the loans to another bank before the year-end audit from 2000 to 2008. That leads there is an understate of the loans to directors, and it made an annual report and auditing information was lack of accuracy. And also the hidden loans is not only to the chairman himself, but also to many other groups like the EMPG and etc. That makes the company lose their reputation to the stakeholders, which can cause a huge disaster to a listed entity. And the last point is about the ethical issue. Fitzpatrick's action was failed to observe the ethical principle like the integrity, trust, fairness, self-control, and humility, with no doubt. So the ethical behavior is not responsible to stakeholders and the whole society.
The 3rd part in this report is using relevant corporate governance principles to prevent the corporate collapse or business scandal. The first principle is instill a culture of acting lawfully, ethically, and responsibly in a listed entity. That is to say, the board of listed entity should lead by example and play a leading role in ethical and responsible behavior. And they should specifically instruct management to create a culture of promoting ethical and responsible behavior within the company. That not only can strengthen the entity's reputation, but also can win the expectations of investors and the broad community. For the principle, we use 2 relevant theories to support. One is agency theory and the other is stakeholder theory. Agency theory is the relationships whereby the principal employs the service of the agent to perform some activity on their behalf. In Anglo-Irish Bank, Fitzpatrick is the chief executive. He is the agent and he has the obligation to act in the best interest of the owner in the bank. However, he had hidden over 87 million euro in loans. He had made to himself kept of a tumultuous series of months. that has seen the bank's value dropped from a high of 13 billion yuan to a low of 242 million euro. He felt in his duty we should act ethically and responsibly. Stakeholder theory considers the relationships that exist between the organization and its various stakeholders. It relates to the ethical or moral treatment of organizational stakeholders. Fitzpatrick and the other board members of the Agro-Ash failure to act in a various manner while heading Agro-Ash spelled the doom for the bank and lead to serious consequences for the Irish taxpayers. They did not treat all their stakeholders fairly. An organization should be managed for benefits of all stakeholders. So how should we use this corporate governance principle to prevent Agro-Ash Bank go out of business? It can be seen there are many moral failures that lead to the collapse of the bank. This experience shows that an entity should strengthen government regulation and supervision, improve corporate governance, and strengthen customer supervision. Also, a code of ethical conduct for senior management should be made, make their action legal, ethical, and responsible.
Hello everyone, now it's my turn. Today I'm going to talk about something about safeguard integrity of corporate report. Firstly, we need to understand what is safeguard integrity of corporate report. It means that a listed entity should have appropriate processes to verify the integrity of its corporate report. It is one of the very important principles. We can know something from this principle that it is very significant to set up an audit committee because it can be efficient to bring the transparency, focus, and independent judgment. If the entity do not have an audit committee, we also need to disclose the fact to let the report users know the actual situation. Then the board should receive a declaration before it approves the entity's financial statements for a financial period to give a true and fair view. The entity should disclose a report which is not audited because there are increasingly numbers of users prefer to use the period corporate report than audited financial statements. Then let's talk about the agency theory. Monitoring cost requires us to set up operating rules. For example, audit committee should have at least 3 members, all of whom are non-executive directors and a majority of whom are independent directors. Monitoring cost in agency theory, which means entities should set up an audit committee to audit the financial reports. The purpose of that is to increase the adequacy of the report and provide a true and fair view. The end of this bank is our lesson. So how to prevent the bank to go broke is the most important part. I have 3 suggestions. The first one is to make good use of financial statements and timely disclosures to data. Don't make silly loans. The second one is to establish an audit committee within the bank to make timely and accurate disclosure. The third one is to publish an audit report. The end of the Irish bank is our lesson. Let us learn a lesson to make a good economic environment.
The third principle is make timely and balanced disclosure. It means a listed entity should make timely and balanced disclosure of all the matters concerned is that reasonable person would expect to have a material impact on the price or the value of its security. The AS listing rule requirements such that all the investor has equal and timely access to the material information concerning the company, including its financial position, performance, ownership, and governance. Balance requires disclosure of both positive and negative information. Stakeholder theories consider the relationship that exists between the organization and its various stakeholders. Fitzpatrick admitted he had hidden a total of €87 in the loan from the bank. The company didn't timely disclose financial situation of the company. The concerned the loan from other shareholders, which influenced on the interests of other shareholders. So how the corporate governance principle could have prevented the corporate collapse of the business schedule. First, the roles and the responsibility of the director, officers, and the employees in complying with the entity disclosure obligations and the listed entity should have the written policies directed to ensure that it complies with this obligation, so that all the investors has equity and timely access to the material information concerning the entity, including its financial position, performance, ownership, and governance. Fitzpatrick and bosses had the owner and that can be prevented. That's all. Thank you.
So in sum, the better application of these three principles can enhance both inside oversight and government regulation from the outside part, so that we can prevent cooperations in the future. And here are the references we used in this presentation. That's it. Thank you.